Raiders Mock Draft. Who's the pick? Welcome to the Las Vegas Raiders Draft Special. If you love the Raiders and want to stay ahead of every pick, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into ESPN's latest 7-round mock draft and breaking down every Raiders selection. This year, the Raiders have 9 total draft picks, and we're about to go through each one. But before we continue, before listening to the latest news, subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Let's move on to the new news. Now, let's get to it. First-round drama. Who will the Raiders pick? According to ESPN's latest mock draft, the first 5 picks are off the board. Cam Ward, Tennessee Titans; Abdul Carter, Cleveland Browns; Shedeur Sanders, New York Giants; Travis Hunter, New England Patriots; Mason Graham, Jacksonville Jaguars. And with their first-round pick, the Raiders select Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. McMillan is a true number, one wide receiver with over 1,300 receiving yards in each of the last 2 college seasons. Pairing him with Geno Smith could be exciting. The Raiders need another strong target besides Jakobi Meyers and Brock Bowers, and McMillan could be the answer. Would you be happy with this pick? Let me know in the comments. Why the Raiders went with Tetairoa McMillan. ESPN explains why the Raiders prioritized a wide receiver instead of a running back. Many fans expected Ashton Jeanty to be the pick, but let's be real. The Raiders desperately need playmakers at receiver. Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly love a strong running game, but the Raiders didn't bring in Geno Smith just to hand off the ball 35 times a game. The team needs reliable targets, and McMillan's 6 feet 4 inches frame, strong hands, and ability to win contested catches make him a perfect fit. Yes, some analysts question his separation ability, but McMillan has the quickness to make defenders miss and the toughness to battle for the ball. That's exactly what the Raiders need. A true number 1. One receiver. A dangerous combination for the Raiders' offense. McMillan reminds many scouts of Mike Evans or Drake London, big-bodied receivers who dominate downfield. What makes this even more exciting? Geno Smith excels at deep throws, and McMillan gives him the perfect red zone weapon. Now, on to round 2, pick 37. The Raiders select Tre'Veyon Henderson. Tre'Veyon Henderson joins the Raiders. This is another fantastic pick. The Raiders passed on a running back in round 1, but at pick 37, they land one of the most dynamic backs in the draft. Henderson is a home run threat every time he touches the ball, and he's also a great pass catcher and pass protector. Chip Kelly coached Henderson last season, so he already knows how to use him in the offense. With McMillan and Henderson, the Raiders' offense is shaping up to be explosive alongside Geno Smith and Brock Bowers. The Raiders draft so far Tetairoa McMillan, WR, a big play receiver for Geno Smith. Tre'Veyon Henderson, RB, a versatile back who can run, catch, and block. And now, round 3, pick 68 is up next. Could the Raiders land Landon Jackson? If so, this might be one of the best draft classes in years. A bold move for the Raiders' defense. Now, let's talk about Landon Jackson. The Raiders pick in round 3, pick 68. Defensive line isn't the biggest need for this team, but if you're looking for a replacement for K'Lavon Chaisson, Jackson makes perfect sense. At 6 feet 6 inches and 264 pounds, Jackson has the ideal frame for a versatile pass rusher. The Raiders already have Max Crosby, but after the Tyree Wilson miss in 2023, they need a reliable edge rusher to pair with him. Jackson is long, athletic, and relentless. Exactly the kind of player John Spytek has favored in the past. He may not have Crosby's elite bend, but he's got great work ethic and the ability to disrupt plays. If the Raiders kick off their draft with McMillan, Henderson, and Jackson, that's a dominant start to rebuilding this roster. Raiders focus on the secondary in round 4. Now, on to round 4, pick 108. The Raiders select Dorian Strong, cornerback from Virginia Tech. Strong is a tall, athletic defensive back at 6 feet 1 inch, 185 pounds, fitting the exact prototype that Pete Carroll loves in his corners. His numbers from last season, 32 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 6 pass breakups, show he's got the tools to develop into a solid starter. The only concern? The Raiders still haven't addressed safety or linebacker. That's something that will need to be fixed soon if this defense is going to hold up against the league's best offenses. But here's the good news. Pete Carroll has a history of developing cornerbacks into star players. If defensive backs coach Marcus Robertson can mold Strong into a shutdown corner, this pick could end up being a steal. So far, the Raiders' draft class looks promising, but now we're heading into round 5, pick 143, and this next pick might surprise you. It's a surprising move at quarterback. Now, here's a pick that might raise some eyebrows. Will Howard, quarterback, Ohio State at round 5, pick 143. Let's be real, the Raiders' quarterback depth isn't the strongest right now. Aiden O'Connell has shown flashes of promise, but there's no clear long-term answer. With Geno Smith likely getting an extension, Howard wouldn't be expected to start right away. Instead, this would be a developmental pick, letting Howard sit for 2 or 3 years while learning behind Smith. If the Raiders take this route, it's a strategy similar to what the Green Bay Packers did with Jordan Love. Draft a quarterback, let him develop, and see if he can be the future. Howard is a big, tough quarterback with solid decision-making. He doesn't create plays on his own as much as he follows the system well, which could fit perfectly in Chip Kelly's offense. Some critics argue that Howard was the weakest link on Ohio State's loaded offense, but with the right coaching, he has the tools to grow into a solid player. Now, with only 4 picks left, the Raiders still have some major needs to address. Will they finally go after a linebacker or a safety? Round 6 is coming up next, and things are about to get even more interesting. Back-to-back offensive linemen? A shocking draft decision. Now this is unexpected. At pick 180 in round 6, the Raiders select Bryce Cable, offensive lineman, and still no linebacker or free safety in sight. At 6 feet 4 inches and 306 pounds, Cable brings solid athleticism. His 4.95-second 40-yard dash and 30 reps on the bench press show he's got strength and mobility. He's a powerful run blocker who plays through the whistle, using his upper body strength to steer defenders where he wants. But here's the thing. While some see him as a tackle, many believe he's better suited as a guard in the NFL. Then comes pick 213 in round 6, and what do the Raiders do? Another offensive lineman, Chase Lunt. Lunt is a tall but lean prospect, primarily a right tackle, but there are concerns about his frame and weight. The Raiders seem to be taking a developmental approach here, betting on their coaching staff and weight training program to bulk him up. His technique and hand placement are solid, and he has good balance through contact, but he'll need to add more strength to succeed in the pros. But here's the big question. Why are the Raiders ignoring their biggest needs? At this point in the draft, no linebacker, no free safety, and instead, they go back-to-back on offensive linemen. It's a risky move, and unless there's a bigger plan in place, fans have every reason to be concerned. With only a few picks left, the pressure is on. Will the Raiders finally address their defensive gaps, or will they continue to go against expectations? Raiders draft strategy. Brilliant or a blunder? All right, 3 straight offensive linemen? Now this is starting to get questionable. At pick 215 in round 6, the Raiders select yet another offensive lineman, Hayden Connor. Standing at 6 feet 6 inches and 314 pounds, Connor is a powerful interior lineman who plays with physicality. But here's the issue. He's not exactly an elite athlete. While he performed well against top-tier defenders like Michigan's Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, there's concern about how he fits into a fast-paced NFL system. Then, finally, a change of pace at pick 220. The Raiders take Daquan Felton, a wide receiver from Virginia Tech. At 6 feet 4 inches and 215 pounds, Felton has the size and speed to be a deep threat, but his hands and route running need work. If he can develop his game, he could become a valuable weapon for a strong-armed quarterback who loves to throw deep. But let's be real. The biggest red flag in this draft is that the Raiders completely ignored the linebacker and free safety positions. With glaring needs on defense, taking 3 offensive linemen in a row feels like an unnecessary gamble, especially when the current O-line isn't in crisis mode. Final grade: a missed opportunity. The early picks, McMillan, Henderson, Landon Jackson, and Dorian Strong, were strong choices. They addressed key areas and made a lot of sense. But the late-round strategy: confusing at best. If this were the actual draft, it would be hard to give anything higher than a C+ or B-. The Raiders missed a chance to strengthen their defense, and that's a decision that could come back to haunt them. Now, the real question is, what's the plan here? Are the Raiders expecting to trade for defensive help, or did they just overlook critical needs? If this draft plays out like this, fans are going to have a lot of questions.